No one else to blame for that whatsoever. Why did you do that? Why are you focusing on that guy? And knowing more and more as that show was going on, like, okay, you either quit or you sort this out. The show is called Hecklers Welcome. The audience is allowed to do whatever they want. I have written a show, but they're allowed to ruin it.
And the reason that you did that, the reason that you've created that, is because you became aware that you had a problem with being heckled on stage.
Yeah, I've been aware of it since the start, but I became aware that it was never going to stop in 2019. So, like, it was like, I think at the beginning, when I started out as a stand-up, I was, all you do on the open mic circuit, open mic comics just say to each other, because, like, you've just done a gig that is unplayable, and you all feel a little bit weird after the gig. Some of you have had a good one, some of you haven't, and but all of your emotions all over the place. And all of you, often at the end of those gigs, will say to each other, imagine one day when you just got your own audience and they're all there to see you. I bet that's great. And then it really kept me going through those like weird, those weird years of just like traveling around the country, losing money, doing gigs to no one that didn't go very well. I'd think, I'll be Ross Noble one day. And like, that would be cool. And, so, at those gigs, if someone heckles you and you respond aggressively or whatever, who cares? You're not anyone. You're just an open micer. And then you start to do well or pick it up. It starts to become your job, but they're still not there to see you. They're not really your audience. So fuck them. They're shouting out. They're talking over you. They're doing all this. It's because this is a riffraff that I'm going to get rid of, and I'm going to purify I'm going to have this audience that are just there to see me, so I can afford to go point out to that guy why he's rubbish, and then they'll never come and see me again. And I'm weeding them out, and I'm kitzing. And then you end up, I ended up 2019 and this tour, my Netflix shows had been out. Off Menu was doing well. I'd done Taskmaster. This is as much as like I'm ever going to have my own audience. This tour sold out really quickly. It was in, 1,000 seaters for the first time. Here we go. This is going to be great. And they were heckling still. They were talking over me still. They were on their phones, lighting their faces up. They were quiet and not really laughing. And I just was still responding the same way, just having a go at them, throwing the gigs. And I'd felt bad about it for a few tours before then. There was like a few tours before then. Probably from my third show onwards, so that's like 2013 the tour was. I was like, oh, that was bad. It's 50 people in an art centre, but you went out and told them they were shit. I don't think you needed to have done that. Let's try not do that again. And then with each tour, I remember starting a tour with a new tour manager, maybe in 2016 or something, and saying to him, like, if I throw a gig and can you email my agent and like snitch on me? And he was like, I'm not going to do that. It's weird, but like, maybe you just don't do that. I was like, yeah, I'll try. And I'm like, yeah, for 3 dates in, I'm telling them this shit. And I was really aware of it. But then when it was the 2019 tour was the one where I was like, okay, this is really never going to end. And
because with that tour in particular, that was the kind of the apotheosis of you're doing what you want specifically to your crowd in big rooms that sell out immediately, which means they all must be fans. Like the circumstances can't be more optimal than this, and yet still.
Yeah, but also realising that they're not all going to be fans, and that's never going to be the case. I bumped into Chris Addison once when I was new. I was like, I'd probably done 1 or 2 solo shows and, sparsely populated tours. And I was halfway through when it wasn't going well. I did a charity gig at Bloomsbury that Chris Addison was on, and he was leaving as I was arriving. And he's always been very supportive to me from like day one. And he was like, how's it going? How are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing a tour. It's really hard. Obviously, they're not there to see me, but like, it gets better, right? He was like, nope. I was like, what? He said, no, because even if you sold out 1,000 seater, there's like a really hardcore fan of yours who's bought 3 of their mates who've never seen you, don't know what you do. Or there are people who saw you on one thing, thought you were pretty good, bought tickets just to see if you're funny live, and actually your stand-up's not their cup of tea. So that's never going to go away. It's never going to. And I kind of was like, all right, I believed him, but I still didn't address my behavior on stage. I was still like, no, they need to change. They're the ones who are wrong. And then like, yeah, in 2019, it was the big feeling of that, of like, okay, they really have just brought their mates along, or they've seen me on something that this isn't even if they'd seen my Netflix shows, to be honest, I was like, in that I'm saying I'm an undercover cop, I'm on jury service, and now I'm going on stage and I'm talking about having suicidal thoughts. Like, this is not the same comedian that they got into from that, to be fair to them. You know, it is a shift, and I'm asking them to go with it and run with it like they're people who go to the Edinburgh Festival every year, and it's exciting for them when a comic pivots. But like, if I'd gone to see Ross Noble before I became a stand-up, and he got on stage and then very seriously talked about his mental health, I'd have been like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. I came to see this guy because I really like his like whimsical improvisation, and now he's just talking about being depressed. And I might have enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have necessarily been the loudest laugher in the room. Mm-hmm. You know, I would have been like, okay, so this comedy can do this. And I might have even got away thinking that's fascinating. But I wouldn't have he wouldn't have known that from me, because I would have been sitting there going, oh, okay, this is a new thing for me. So, yeah, so 2019, I was just like, this isn't on them anymore. It's really not on them. Like, half the time, you know, they're actually a good audience, and you're bored with the show, you're insecure about the show yourself as a stand-up. You know, you ultimately don't think you're good at this. It doesn't matter what people say. So like, you do have this insecurity when a joke doesn't land as well as it usually does, or someone looks a bit bored, and you go for that. And there were gigs on that tour. There's a gig in Leeds where like the audience were phenomenal. And there was one guy who was sat in like a royal box, which jutted out onto the stage. So he was lit like I was. Okay. And he was just an old boy. He was like sat on the lip a bit like that, looking at, and he was just completely dead faced. But the rest of them, it was like the best audience I'd had all tour. And I was just like, it was just him. And I just started going like, you all right? What's going on up here? Like, and eventually he was like, yeah, I went to see you do your book tour and I liked that, but I don't like that. And I pushed him to the point where he had to say, I don't like this. Mm. And then the gig just went, so just dismantle it all in the bin. Doesn't matter that all you lot are loving it. Fuck this guy. Then other people started to heckle me as the gig went on, because I'd basically just like, you know, I'd stopped it from being this nice gig. And I remember coming off and going, absolutely 100% your fault. No one else to blame for that whatsoever. Why did you do that? Why are you focusing on that guy? And knowing more and more as that show was going on, like, okay, you either quit or you sort this out. And then at the end of the tour, I was like, right, I'm going to take some time off and not do stand-up for a bit, because I've like, you know, basically for however many years it had been at that point, you know, it was end of 2019, I started in 2008. And like, I was like, you have not really given yourself, on average, you've worked every single night for those, you know, because you've done multiple gigs a night, you've done also, so like, you've probably done a gig every single day on average for that amount of time, and you need some time off. And then obviously that coincided with the pandemic. So everyone's having time off anyway, and I'm at home and really enjoying not being up there every night. And then you do think, well, why am I doing this? You know, why am I putting them through that as well? Why, yeah, they're all buying tickets and sitting down to watch a show, and I'm just going like, fuck yeah, you're just like shit. Like, it's embarrassing, and it's shit for them. So yeah, just like kind of realizing that, yeah, you're going to have to change, and how are you going to do that?
There's a moment in the show which I texted you the interval to tell you how therapeutic I was finding it, which I don't think you got that message till afterwards. And as soon as I'd sent it, I was like, that may not have come across like a compliment. I mean, I did say, you know.
I saw it after. It was fine. It's nice.
But the therapeutic aspect of it, as someone who is perpetually having a crisis about comedy, as a lot of us are, but it's a particularly weird time for me. I'm having maybe a crisis is too strong a word. No one else cares, but...
no, but that's how it feels.
That's how it feels. how am I doing it? What am I doing? Do I still want to do it? Do I get from it what I used to? The thing I keep saying is that I got into it for the adventures, and I felt like I had some of the adventures. Through an ADHD lens, you might go, it's not as novel as it was, and it is holding my interest less in certain circumstances, certain situations. What was so therapeutic in that show was when you talk about having, like, I don't want to be on stage, and I'll butcher the line, but the sentiment being, I don't want to be on stage, but the only place worse than this is being you. And oh my God, I just, like, me and the two comics who were behind me both like hooted at that, because that's right. That's right. You know, we're all, because we can all be so passionate about comedy, and like, I've made my whole fucking life about it. That's part of the crisis. If you go, if I stop doing this, what the fuck am I? It's so woven round my identity and how I see myself and all the rest of it. Torch inward, a series of torches. That idea that, like, I don't want to be here, but the only place worse than here is being down there. And that sense of, like, you just nailed that yearning of, like, if not this, I don't want to be that. Mm-hmm. And I suppose with that in mind as well is the empathy of, I'm trying to make 2 points at once, but the other bit that I remember in particular from that section was really you talking about how when you talk about all of the things you're accusing the audience of, and there's a really nice little kind of double rhythm where you go, which, by the way, is exactly how I do it. You know, people sat in audiences staring at you, which, by the way, is exactly how I watch comedy. Yeah. Seeing it from our point of view and really drilling into the relationship between audience and performer and who is responsible for what and what the stakes are. Again, you know, the stakes for you and the stakes for us. Someone pointed out that recently in the Facebook group that I'm over fond of saying, that's not really a question, but do something with that. So I'm going to find another way to do it. That idea of, like, I don't necessarily want to be up here, but I don't want to be down there. Yeah.
And I don't really have the answer. Like you were saying, and a lot of people have been asking, like, well, why does he still do it then? I don't really have an answer for that. I haven't figured that out yet. And I'll, you know, I know that I like making stuff. I really love making things and creating and all that. That's really fun. It's fun and it's satisfying, and it's not anything necessarily more than that. It's nothing chin strokey or you know, it doesn't make my kind of like opinion of myself, it doesn't elevate it and then I just have to create and all that. It's not that. It's really fun and I love it, and I've loved it since I was a little kid. And it just kind of happened that stand-up was the thing that took off, because I was able to do it without relying on anyone else. You know, I think a lot of us like that. I remember in the open mic circuit meeting, like, people who I still know now who would all tried something and been the driving force behind, like, a band or a theatre group or something like that. You know, tried to do writing with a writing partner and they were lazy or whatever it was. And so we started doing this on our own, and then suddenly it accelerates because no one's, you know, not turning up at band practice. No one's not learnt their lines. It's just you booking it, doing it yourself. So even if it isn't this thing of, like, what I have to do is stand-up comedy, because that was not how I felt at the beginning. I wasn't like, I have to be a stand-up. I loved stand-up. I loved comedy. And from day one, comedy has been my favourite genre of anything. And, like, it's been a huge part of my life. And when I discovered stand-up, it completely, you know, just changed everything for me. And it was all I wanted to watch. So doing it, you know, and trying it out was quite a logical thing of someone who likes to try any creative things that he enjoys. But I wasn't like, this will be my career at all. And then I found that I really enjoyed working on it, and it was really satisfying to actually get to do something where, you know, I get up on stage, try it, didn't work, go away, change it, go, I think it's that, I think it's the way I said it, change it, oh, that works, this is good. And actually being able to make stuff, like we were saying with the pitching TV shows, and no one's letting you make it, and then you go, I need to make some. I want to stop just thinking about it. So suddenly I was able to actually do it, and it's the feedback straight away with comedy. And I do love stand-up. I love I love talking about it. Like, you know, Nish and I, during one of the, you know, times in the pandemic where, you know, things opened up for a bit, went for a drink and we were trying to stand up, and halfway through he said, "You're going to carry on doing this. You love this." And I was like, I do love it. That's not, you know, doesn't mean it's simple and a straightforward thing that therefore I can get up and do it. But I wouldn't be doing this show if I didn't love it and didn't want to do it anymore. I would just stop doing comedy and I wouldn't do it. And I'm doing this show because I do love it and I do want to keep doing it. So I think that's worth trying and getting better at. And in order for that to happen, I think I need to do a show like this that acknowledges it all and lays it out for them and analyzes it a little bit.